So, for those who have joined us, good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Ferreira, the Director of Education here at the FSHD Society. And on behalf of the Society, welcome to today's FSHD University on Smart Home Technologies for FSHD. A quick reminder, if you do have questions for our presenters, please do use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. It makes it easier for us to sort through questions. Of course, you are still welcome to use the chat feature, but just know that we don't actively monitor that section for questions. And so to get us started, I'd like to introduce our presenters here. We have Justin Hill and Don Burke. Justin Hill is an electronics engineer at Lockheed Martin who works on NASA's Orion spacecraft. Justin has a lifelong passion for technology and has spent the past 14 years building and expanding his family's smart home. He also lives with FSHD, giving him a personal perspective on how smart home and other smart technologies can support daily life. Outside of work, Justin and his wife Amanda enjoy traveling, great food and wine, and spending time with their two dogs. Additionally, we have Don Burke, who is also a member of our community, who has a passion for adventure and technology. Retired from the workforce, Don has contributed to foundational efforts for the FSHD Society, attended the first support group meetings, participated in clinical trials, and even helped build the Wikipedia page on FSHD. In his free time, Don travels across the country in his electric vehicle, averaging 55,000 miles a year and many, many photos. So we appreciate both of you for being here, taking times out of your busy schedules. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Great. Well, good afternoon, good evening for those of you out there. As she mentioned, I'm Justin Hill, and you may know my wife, Amanda. She works for the Society, has done a lot of amazing things. Um, I have dragged her into my journey over the years, and I started out probably about 14 years ago. My first device that I ever had was a Nest thermostat. It was a brand new device back in 2011-ish. And they're actually now part of Google, but um, I've slowly added things over the years. So hopefully in this presentation and as we get into questions and demo, I can help kind of steer as I've meandered along the way. I've tried a lot of different things. In my house, I have nearly everything is controllable, for better, for worse. Usually for better. But I, as she mentioned, have a passion for technology. I try to stay up on the latest things for smart homes and all sorts of other stuff. I love it, and hopefully I can share a little bit of that with you. As we go into this, this is really meant to just be an introduction to smart home. There's, of course, as deep or as basic as you want to go. I guess as we get into this, just be thinking maybe in the back of your head, um, how to just make a few things in your life easier. Like maybe you have a lamp that you want to control that's a pain to get to or a pain to turn on and off. And really just start simple, and how to get started with that. So with that, I'll be going through some of the slides, and I'll be stopping at a few points for questions. We'll be getting into a demo later on. So as kind of a background on um, my what I've used is generally Apple Home, and Don here is more gotten into the Google side. So hopefully that'll each give us a little bit perspective on kind of a couple different routes you can go. So let's jump in. So what is a smart home? Really, it's just internet connected devices.
Justin, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Were you sharing slides? We can't see them on our end yet.
Oh, I thought that I had been sharing. Sorry about that.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, cool. If it drops at any point again, just yeah, don't feel free to chime in. Okay, cool. So, what is a smart home? Very basically, it's just an internet connected suite of devices that can automate or control different things in your house. Uh, Most commonly, lighting, security, climate. Like I mentioned, you can go as big or as small as you want. And really, if you can imagine it, you can make it happen. It's just a matter of how much you want to get into it. So, and really, the goal here, enhancing convenience, efficiency, and security. As you'll see, there's a lot of different things you can do, and a lot of ways you can start, but I'll offer some of my advice as we get into it. All right, so some of the key features. As probably a lot of you are aware, Alexa's maybe the most common one. You see commercials on that. Um, a lot of people have Amazon's Prime subscriptions these days. So I think Alexa is really the one that put smart home stuff on the map. And that's just one example of a route you can go to control via their app or their voice assistant. And and then within that, you can do automations, which are really just small routines that run automatically to turn on something like turning on a light at sunset or something like that. Um, and then, like I mentioned, you really have three main ecosystems, Apple, Google Home, and Amazon Alexa. I'm sure most of you are familiar with one of these, whether you use the smart home features on them or not. They're built in. Uh, is right built in right to your phone, so is Google Home. Amazon is one that you can download on pretty much any device. So some of the benefits, of course, there's energy savings, there's improved security, things like cameras, smoke detectors that monitor your house while you're gone, and then personalized comfort, and then really increased accessibility, which is kind of the angle that we're going to take with the presentation today. Um, so helping those with disabilities or just making things a little bit easier. Like I mentioned, maybe maybe you have a light that's hard to get to, or you have a window shade that is a pain to open or close. It's just little things like that that you can add a device and control it right from your phone or from voice. So um, at a high level, that's kind of what we're looking at. So, what are the different types that we can control? And again, the ones that we're going to go through right now are basic. If, like I mentioned before, if you can imagine it being controllable, there is a way to do it out there. So these are just kind of the intro ones. And in my opinion, some of the most fun and exciting. I love automated lighting, and that's you can do it a lot of different ways. Swapping in a smart light bulb, a smart light switch, which is just changing the one in your wall, and then like a smart plug too. So if you have just a lamp or any device that plugs into the wall, you can get a simple on-off plug for that. Security, another really handy one. So this can be used to control locks, cameras, and other sensors. So like in my house, for instance, all of my smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, are all linked into my smart home. And that was something that I did because we have dogs, and so I was worried. Um, that potentially if we were ever out of the house and something happened, I wanted to be notified about that. So kind of some cool stuff there. And then also like leak detectors or other random sensors kind of fall into this category. So like if your water heater starts leaking, for instance, in your basement, you can get a notification for that, which is pretty cool. Climate control, this is where I started as with a smart thermostat. And pretty revolutionary when Nest came out with their device. They made it very simple to just plug and play your old thermostat for I think it was like 80 plus percent of furnaces out there. I really like that one because you don't have to get up and change the temperature when you get hot or cold. You can just do it right from your phone or tell your favorite voice assistant to do it for you. And then, like I mentioned too, opening and closing shades. That's another one I really like. Irrigation. This for me, I live in Colorado. The weather changes here hourly. We can go from being basically a desert to getting flooding rain. So this was a game changer for my house, automating this really cool feature. And really, I don't have to worry about going out into the garage and manually turning this on and off as the weather changes. So that's another cool one. And then finally, entertainment. So a lot of different things you can do here. Probably the most common is music. And I really love this a lot. In my house, I have a device in almost every main room so I can play music in certain areas or play it everywhere. Of course, in this category, also you have smart TVs, pretty much ubiquitous these days. Um, and then like photo frames and stuff would be kind of cool because you can link those right into your phone. And as most of us these days all take pictures with our phone and don't really print things out anymore. So kind of nice to see stuff that you've taken pictures of or link it to your family members. So those are kind of the basic device types. Now, the ecosystems and voice control. So ecosystems are platforms. Um, these are these are device, or I should say, a platform kind of that unifies all of the smart devices for seamless control. So for anybody that um, has looked at smart devices, most of them come with their own app, which is great if you just have a few things. But as you start expanding, it's nice just to have one app to control them all. And so the most common ones, as I mentioned before, you have Apple Home, Google Home, Amazon Alexa, and then we have this newest one, which we'll talk here in a little bit, which is called Matter. And this one was intended really to pull everybody together. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. Um, and the cool thing about voice control, I'm sure most people are aware, if you have Siri on your phone, if you have Apple or Google, the Google Assistant on your Android phone, um, these link right into voice control for smart homes too if you hook those up. So you can just tell them to turn on or off a light or lock the door or really any other command that you can imagine. And it's pretty handy because um, even if your phone's not physically in your hand, you can still tell it and it'll pick that up and do it for you. So super
Yeah, in fact,
convenient.
Justin, just yesterday I got invited into the new Google Home that integrates with Gemini as a
Oh yeah.
transition from assistant or to the full, AI based Google Home, and that's just rolling out now over the next month or so.
Yeah, I did see an email on that, and it looks really exciting because it'd be hopefully much more intelligent and more natural, like voice control. Because I can say, when it comes to voice control, one of the things that can be really annoying for some of these is that you have to be a little bit specific on what you say, like turning off the living room lights or something like that and saying or lamps. But the cool thing with AI, as you'll see, is you can be a little bit more human language, like I want the lights off, and it can just figure that out. So a lot of cool stuff coming. Yeah, thanks, Don. Always changing and upgrading. I mean, over the last 14 years, things have really changed a lot. It's um, very common and easy to get into it now. Um, so final thing, interoperability, as I mentioned, um, these all allow things from all the different device brands that make smart home stuff to work together. And then Matter is going to be an even bigger one because all of the players, Apple, Google, Amazon, and then a lot of the big smart home brands all collaborated to come up with this universal standard that'll hopefully pull everything together so you don't have to worry about that, what works with what. And we'll get to that here in a minute.
as much.
Yeah, yep. It's still very much a work in progress and it's pretty new, but has a lot of promise. All right, so spoke about the ecosystems. So we'll just quickly go through these at a high level. So as I mentioned, I'm an Apple Home guy. I love it. It's super integrated. For those of you that are familiar with Apple products, they can be great, but they're also a very closed garden, so to speak. There are pluses and minuses to that, as we'll see later. But I've also used the other two. I've at some point in my smart home journey, I started actually with Alexa stuff. At one point, I had Alexa, Google, and Apple all running in my smart home. And it was it was more just to try things as they came out and just experiment with it. But ultimately, it was my wife that wanted me to make it simpler. So we just had one assistant that we were talking to. So anyway, Apple Home. We have Google Home, which is the other big one. And the as Don just mentioned, the AI integration is really good and it's only going to get better. I think in general, Google has uh, the leg up over all of these when it comes to AI integration, and I'm sure everybody has their own opinion on it. But really, really great integration, really good voice assistant. And their interface in general is really good. So if you're big Google or Android person, that one is certainly an easy one to go with. And then finally we have Amazon Alexa, which the widest device compatibility. Everything works with Alexa. It's platform agnostic, which basically means that it'll run on an Apple or a Google phone. Um, you actually don't even need a phone necessarily to work with Alexa. I worked with these guys several years ago, and we built an Alexa that runs that we installed on the spacecraft that we sent up into space. So Alexa, pretty amazing. Their team really has spent a lot of time developing easy compatibility, and you'll see that's evident with the number of devices that are compatible with them. Google's a very close second. I mean, most everything these days is compatible with Google. So either one of those, super easy. I will say though, the Amazon Alexa app isn't super great. Of course, they're always getting better. So generally been more focused on the voice assistant over the years. So, and then across all of these, as I mentioned, we have Matter. Not all devices support Matter, and still very much a new protocol or platform, but just going to keep adding over time. So we'll get here into that next slide. So what is Matter? I have no idea how they came up with this name. Seems kind of weird choice to me, but it does matter. It's a unified standard. It's a single cross-platform smart home device protocol, which that's a mouthful. Basically, just means that if you grab anything off the shelf and it says that it's Matter capable, you can put it into an Apple Home, a Google Home, or an Alexa Home. Even there's other ones out there. Samsung has their smart things, and of course there's many others, but these kind of the main ones. And then, like I mentioned, it's supposed to be seamless, interoperable across all the platforms, simple setup. So basically, all you have to do is scan a QR code. I think since COVID, we're all used to doing that. Really simple. You just pull out your camera and it'll kick off the setup routine, which is really nice. As someone who has over the years added a lot of different things, there are some devices that were really simple to add and get set up, and there were some that were not. So this is a big one. Makes everything super easy. The other nice thing about Matter is its enhanced security. It has built-in encryption and authentication. It's also locally controlled. And there's a lot of advantages to this. Basically, as opposed to like Alexa, for instance, where everything you say goes up into the cloud, so to speak, and has to be processed in their servers and come back to you. So not only is that not as secure, but it also takes split seconds longer. So there's big advantages to this local control. Um, Everything staying within your local Wi-Fi network. And then wide compatibility. So everything with Matter works over Wi-Fi, Ethernet. There's also this other protocol called Thread, which you don't really need to worry about at the moment. But uh, Wi-Fi is probably the most common thing, as you'll see, in the easiest to install, really, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's just there are a lot of devices that communicate through Thread, and with Matter, it just works seamlessly.
Right. Yep. Super handy. And I love Thread. I have a bunch of devices that run on it, and they're faster, um, and the other advantage is it doesn't actually use your Wi-Fi network. So that was something over the years. At one point, I had so many devices on my Wi-Fi network that I was crashing my Wi-Fi, and I had to back up and kind of change my network and upgrade to more of a mesh system. Um, so that's a lesson that I've learned. It's nice to have devices that aren't all on your Wi-Fi. So that's just something to consider when you're thinking about this. A few devices here and there on Wi-Fi, not a big deal. If you're adding dozens and dozens like I did over the years, it will eventually drag the network down a little bit. So something certainly to consider, and something that Don and I can help people have questions on that. So, all right. Automations. So I mentioned this. This is probably one of the nicest things about smart home stuff is you can just set up these little routines to make your life easier. And I have a lot of these in my life, so I listed here some of my favorites, but basically it's just an if then, like if like sunset occurs, I want to turn on these lights, or um, if if I walk into this room, I want this to happen. So really cool. They're not very difficult to set up. I'll go through some of my favorites just to kind of get the wheels turning. So this is probably the most favorite thing in my smart home. Um, I've never liked waking up to an alarm in the middle of in the early morning hours when it's still dark. So I have a light strip that's over our window in our master bedroom, and I've used an automation that basically simulates a sunrise every day at the same time. And it changes color and it changes brightness over the course of 30 minutes. And that has made a huge difference. It basically keeps my circadian rhythms on the same cycle every day. And it really just helps my body to wake up naturally. I love that. Um, so that's one example of you can do with lighting. I have a wake up routine on top of that that adds other things in to help me out because mornings can be rough for me. Um, and there's a few things in this. One is it gently starts heating up the house, like if it's wintertime, the furnace will start turning up over the course of an hour. It'll also There's some other lights that it helps turn on once the sunrise is like finishing up. And it turns my kettle on downstairs and heats it to the right temperature so I can make my coffee as soon as I get up. So, and then lights my way down to that to the kitchen. So that's another one I really like. I think it's helped a lot. So I'm not stumbling around in the dark when I'm trying to get ready. And then, like I mentioned, hot water for coffee. That's the one I use not just for coffee, but also like for tea and other things. It's just a simple smart kettle. It connects to Wi-Fi. Um, Another one that's pretty handy that I think could help a lot of people out is kind of an arrive home routine. So this is uses your phone's location, and as you approach home, you can have it do things like turn on lights, unlock doors, and just I think makes things a lot easier when you first get home. You can even have it open a door, like for those that uh, a little bit difficult to open a door or put a key in the lock, things like that. And then a good night routine. So that's just to wrap up the whole day. I have one that nighttime, it'll dim off all the lights, it locks all the doors, it makes sure that the garage door is closed, it sets the security system. And that's just really nice because when we go to bed, we don't have to worry about going around and turning off all the lights and closing the shades. It also does that. So just some few ideas of things you can do. And again, um, keep in mind, I've been at this in a long time, so I think the thought of what you can do can be exciting and overwhelming, but you just got to start somewhere, like something small that you can set up. I like the idea of just having maybe a lamp that you set up and um, you add it to your smart home of choice, and you have a little automation that turns the light on as it gets dark or at a certain time, little things like that, and then it can, shut off when you've gone to bed so you don't have to worry about getting back into a corner to turn it on or off or something like that. So, all right. So, getting started. Like I mentioned, start small. Just pick one or two things that you can do, um, and just try it out. Don't be afraid to um, experiment around. Maybe you want to move it around once you've figured it out or you want to add on. That's great. The other thing I will say is choose a platform. So Apple, Google, or Alexa, you're not locked into this. Like I mentioned, I've been around with all of them. I think they all have their benefits. Most things these days are compatible with most of these systems. So if you end up not liking it for whatever reason, you can always change. And then just experiment with automations, just a simple routine to make your life easier. There's all sorts of things you can do, and probably as you start thinking about it, you'll just realize certain things in your life could just be a lot simpler with just a um, smart home device and a little automation. So that is kind of the main stuff. I have some brand recommendations, and we can kind of look at a more deeper comparison of stuff if people want. But at this point, just open it for any questions or thoughts. I will say Don and I will make ourselves available, um, not just for people that have the live questions, but if you think of things later, trouble getting started, sometimes it's nice just to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. So certainly available for that. You can just reach out to Ashley and she can connect us. And then for those watching the recording, certainly get in touch that way as well.
Yeah. In terms here, I would just it's starting small and choosing a platform. Really recommend that when you're first selecting your devices, if possible, look for the Matter logo and buy the device that's Matter compliant. It'll be it'll give you the greatest chance of everything working well and seamlessly now and in the future. And not
Yeah.
because not all devices are Matter certified yet.
Yep.
But if it has the Matter logo on the box, it is Matter certified.
Yep. That's what
Austin,
this
I'm
looks like
sorry,
right here.
we did have a question regarding the sunrise lighting. Does this require any special electrical work that I would need to consider, or is it just a matter of installing a light bulb?
Great question. No, you do not need any special electrical. I don't think I've ever done anything special aside from swapping out a light switch. But for the sunrise one in particular, it's just a thin light strip. It has adhesive that you can mount really anywhere, and then it just plugs into the wall. So that would be the only thing is it would need to have an outlet nearby. But other than that,
Yeah,
um, pretty
yeah,
simple. And that's in my brand recommendations. The one that I use is a Philips Hue. I really love their stuff. And they work with everybody, all four of these actually. Um, a little bit more on the pricey side, but I've had my Philips Hue stuff for almost a decade and it's still going strong. So yeah, great question though. And that could be a light bulb too. We have light bulbs that do the same thing.
yeah. I think the only thing you rarely have to do anything electrical, as Justin said, but you do have to think about how do you want it to look from an aesthetic perspective. So if you're
Yeah.
really sensitive to wires running around, you want to find ways to hide those wires or mount close to a outlet or integrated into integrated into your furniture in an elegant kind of way. And that's something I'm kind of struggling with here as I try to clean up the wires in my house, is how to put particularly lamps and light strips and stuff like that
Mm.
in
Yeah.
without having to have wires running down the side of the wall.
Yep. That's a good point.
Thank you. Another question. You mentioned the ability to open doors as we get home. What does installation for this typically look like?
Hmm. Good question. So I guess two ways. I don't have anything that specifically physically opens a door. I have all my locks are automated, so like the main one that I use when I get close to it, it just unlocks automatically. Um, there are I've helped a friend who has basically those accessible doors installed. And that is something that you would have to have probably help with an installer. Um, but those switches you can hook into your smart home system so that you could, do it from your phone, or you could tell Siri to do it once you had that hooked up. But that would something that physically opens the door, that would be a little bit more of an installation. Certainly not insurmountable though.
And I would just repeat what Justin said earlier in the briefing is there are devices that can serve as the middleman. So if, for instance, you were looking to automate a door opener, if you already have an automated, an electronic door opener, but it isn't itself a smart device, you can
Yeah.
get switches or toggles that are smart devices that can essentially serve as a physical hand that's flipping a switch or turning something on or off. So
Yeah.
there are always ways to take a dumb device and make it smart using an intermediary.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good point.
beautiful. Okay, and our last question before I'll let you continue with the presentation. Someone asked, you had mentioned that you can overwhelm the Wi-Fi. What does
Uh-huh.
that mean, and how many items is too many?
Good question. It's hard to really put a number on it. It would really depend on how old your router is. I'm trying to think when I overwhelmed my system, this was a long time ago, and I had a single router running my whole house. I was probably had um, over 100 devices on it, um, which is too many. So the good thing, I mentioned Wi-Fi devices are super common, and they're fine. But some of these brands use what's, I guess you could call, a hub and spoke system. So, like for instance, Philips Hue has a little hub that plugs into your router, and then all of the devices you add from that point connect to the little hub, and they're not actually running on your Wi-Fi network. And that would be what I would recommend if, as much as possible, like, um,
or thread devices.
or thread devices. Yep.
And that's one thing that Google Home has going for it is all the Google products that serve as hubs all have thread built right into them.
Yep.
So
And that's the same with Apple too.
yeah,
Uh, the
so those are
I
sort
think
of
Alexa, most of the new stuff with Alexa also has a thread router in it.
yeah.
Um,
I
but
think
yeah, that's
yeah,
sorry,
the
go
way
ahead.
to think about that is every device is being chatty on your Wi-Fi.
Right.
So the more you add, the more it's not even that they're sending that much data, but they're sending lots of pings back and forth. And all of those pings can actually just cause latency and delay in your Wi-Fi.
Right. It'd be like you have one person in your room trying to talk to another person, and that's fine. You add 30 more people, and everybody trying to talk to everybody else is not going to be very efficient. It's just really loud.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a way to think of it. So if you're just starting with a few devices and you just want to experiment with something, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, Wi-Fi devices, like I mentioned, are super common, and that's fine if you're just dipping your toe in the water. If you plan on adding, automating and adding smart home devices to a lot of stuff, you want to think more um, like thread compatible devices or these hub compatible stuff, which
But
is
don't let that
generally what
stop
I
you.
went to.
Don't let that stop you now.
Yeah.
You can solve that problem when you have it.
Yep. And if you have a mesh router system, which are basically you have several routers throughout your house, uh, it'll take a lot longer for that to become a problem, but certainly something to consider long term. Do we have any other questions out there? Okay, I'll check back for questions here in a minute. So some of my brand recommendations, these are solid things I've used through the years that I really love, and that generally have very good support, for everybody. Um, Lutron Casita, these guys make smart switches, and they also make shades. It uses a hub style system, super reliable. I've never had an issue with these. Um, really love them. The only thing on this is that when you add their smart switches, it's basically replacing a switch in the wall. If you're not comfortable with that, which I totally get, you can either have an electrician do it, or just not do that style. Um, Philips Hue, on the other hand, is extremely easy. They also use a hub system. They make a lot of smart bulbs. They make all sorts of other things that you'll see on their website if you go and explore that. Um, but they make smart bulbs that change color, that just change temperature and dimness. I mean, really, the whole gamut of stuff that you can do. Google Nest, as I mentioned, that was one that I started with. Nest originally was its own company, bought by Google at some point in the last decade. They make a lot of cool products, very well designed, both aesthetically and just the way that they work, like just really easy. They took a very, I would say, non-sexy device, which is um, your thermostat in your hallway, and made it just very functional and very easy to use. It learns from your schedule and builds temperature profile schedules based on that. Really love that. Still have those from way back in the day. that was another thing I wanted to mention too. I've been really fortunate. Most of the things that I've gotten over the years still work to this day, even the stuff from the early days. But as there's always going to be chance for obsolescence, as Don mentioned. If you choose something with Matter, that's probably your best chance for keeping it going into the future. But just one of the considerations. Ecobee is another one. They make smart thermostats and some other devices. Great company. Tapo, they make light switches and a few other things. They're super easy to use. August makes smart locks. I really love this one. I've had my original August for over a decade, and it's rock solid. Really love it. And then Rachio is my smart sprinkler company. Um, and that's kind of the one that I had talked a little bit earlier. I use it to control all of my sprinklers in my lawn, watering my garden. It adjusts automatically to the weather. It's linked into all of that. So you don't have sprinklers coming on in the rain, or if there's a freeze or any other crazy weather events, it just handles all that. All I have to do is enable it at the start of the season, and it just handles everything, which is amazing. For those of you that have ever struggled with lawn care, super highly recommend. Makes things easy. So those are the big ones. These are what you can look for on the boxes or online when you're looking at these. If it works with any of these platforms, it has this logo on them. So Apple Home, Google Home, Alexa, and then this is what the Matter looks like. And generally, you'll see most of these logos on things. Matter, of course, still new, but starting to see it pop up a lot. I was actually done kind of surprised. I saw because I have Google Nest, a bunch of things from years ago.
Yeah,
And they
me
just
too.
came out with not only Gemini, but they launched their new smart cameras and their new
Yeah,
doorbell. And I was looking through and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not Matter. Why isn't it Matter? And then I was looking at the protocol. Matter doesn't actually support cameras or doorbells yet, which is kind of shocking.
that's correct. Yeah. But if it is Google Home, and so all your other Matter devices would work within Google Home, and so
Right. Yep.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'll be doing for my security cameras are the new Google cameras.
Yeah, they've been really solid. I mean, I have some of my Nest cameras are probably almost 10 years old, some of the original ones. They've been really good. All right. Anybody have any questions on brands or any of the works with stuff? Don't be shy if you have a question. Happy to answer it, or Don can answer it.
Actually, Justin, I don't know if this is something that'll be kind of addressed later, but someone did have a question regarding smart devices in beds. Is there anything that might help someone with FSHD in terms of like, something that would make it easier for getting out, getting up out of the bed, adjustments, things like that, that you know of?
I know of one, and it's called 8 Sleep. Um, and I had one of their earlier products, which was just sleep tracking and heating, and it would use the sensors in there to optimize your temperature as you were sleeping, and it would also give you a sleep score. Nowadays, they have a really fancy one that heats and cools your bed. It has a whole bunch of sensors that an AI built into it that optimizes your sleeping temperature. They have a version that also can lift up the bed. Those, I guess, almost like a hospital bed style platform underneath the mattress, so that you can raise and lower like your feet or your head. For accessibility, and then also if it'll auto detect snoring. As a snorer myself, and my wife has to wear earplugs, that seems kind of a cool feature because it'll just gently adjust your head if it detects you snoring. I've certainly considered getting one, not necessarily for the bed movement part, but for the heating and cooling, because our room tends to get kind of hot in the summer, even with air conditioning, second floor. Um, so that's the only one I'm aware of. And the cool thing with that is it integrates almost positive it integrates with Google and Alexa, and it's controllable with your phone. So I don't know all of the details, but if you just type in 8 sleep, it'll come up, and then you'll probably get ads for it relentlessly for a while. But they have a really cool product. The heating and cooling is liquid based. You put water in it. Um, but yeah, check that out. It's pretty cool. It's kind of expensive, but for somebody that wants that, I think it's a good option. And they've been
Excellent.
around probably about 10 years. I think that company's been around.
Perfect. And then can smart home systems be customized to adapt as FSHD progresses? For example, if someone later needs more hands-free options, and if so, is there a certain brand that you recommend that will be easier to kind of, customize as you progress?
Good question. So I think that the one I'm aware of that has the most native capabilities within it to do sensor-based lighting control is Philips Hue. Um, they have basically it's a form of motion sensor. It's called an occupancy sensor, which uses infrared, and you can place them in different rooms. I have some of them in my house, so that as you walk through the house, it can turn on um, lights in those areas. And that's another cool thing. Even if you don't stay within one ecosystem, within these platforms, whatever one you choose, you can add a sensor from a different company and use it to turn on a light. And I was going to do a live demo, so maybe this is a good time for that.
Actually, the Philips Hue, the newest versions are coming out with new sensors that even go well beyond ultrasonic or IR, and so they use ultrasonics and they talk amongst each other to even give better location awareness.
Yeah, I have read a little bit about that. I don't have any of that stuff, but there are a lot of promising stuff on the horizon. And even I know Apple and Alexa have been working to figure out how to do interior location based on, just um, the stuff that's already in your phone, like the Wi-Fi modem or Bluetooth, so that your hubs can kind of sense where your phone is as you move through your house, and you can just have it automatically turn on and off lights as you move around. So let's do a demo. All right, so this, I'm on a Mac right now, but this, if you use Apple Home on your phone, it'll look really similar to this. So it's easiest, I know, for those of you that want to are more interested in Alexa or Google. I apologize, I don't have any of that stuff to share, but a few things I wanted to show you on Apple. And really, they all have versions of this. Something that I really like about the Apple one is it has this Discover tab, and it has all sorts of handy things to get you started. More things that I discussed today. Um, and you can just click into each of these and gives you little demos and little tips on how to get going. So, and if you have an Apple phone, this Apple Home app that looks just like this icon is on every phone. So you have this, and you even have this little tab if you just open it up. All right, so here is what my house looks like. And as I mentioned, I'm kind of a nut. I have as much as I can automate, I have it automated. And it's kind of cool here. It gives you this home screen that we're on, gives you a glimpse of everything that's going on in the house. So I have my cameras. Generally, when I'm not, or when I am home, I have my cameras off because I don't want, as probably most people do, people staring at you. So you turn those off, and then only have the exterior cameras on. Um, I have this doorbell camera here. And then this is kind of cool. It just gives you a glimpse of everything that's going on. So this is currently the house is somewhere between 77 and 81. I have 3 different lights on. I have 2 doors open. Nothing is playing on the TV or on any of my speakers. None of my sprinklers are on, and energy is looking pretty good. So this kind of just a glimpse of what this would look like. And these tiles are really handy. You can just click things on and off, or you can dim them as much as you want for dimmable type lights. And I have my favorites up here, things that I use a lot. You can see like the garage door. And then each room has its own set of devices, all which individually controllable through any device of choice, including my watch, which I really love. Um, and let's see here. So, wanted to go through how easy an automation is. Um, Apple makes it super simple. Google has something just like this. Um, and these are the just simple routines to make things easier. You can see I have all sorts of things in here, but let's just do one just to show you how easy it is. So, somebody mentioned like walking into a room and having a light turn on. So let's do that. So a sensor detects something. Let's say I walk into the living room. I happen to have a motion sensor in there. And what do I want it to do? It starts detecting motion. Let's say I only want to do it at night, which would be after sunset. And I only want to do it when I'm home. And then now I know this looks like a lot, but I have a lot of devices. So let's say I walk into the living room and I want to turn on all the lamps. So then you go through here. It just gives you a summary of what this is going to do. So motion is detected, or someone walks in there and I want this lamp to turn on. I don't ever want it to turn off. You can also have it turn off after a certain amount of minutes, and then that's it. You now have an automation that makes lights come on as you wander through the house, just like in a sci-fi movie from the 1950s. You have a Jetson home right here. So that was all I wanted to do on the demo. Is there anything that anybody would specifically like to see? The other thing I didn't really touch on, which are really similar to automations, are what's called scenes. And these are just basically a button push to control multiple devices at one time to do something. Like, for instance, I have this watch TV one. And when I push that, um, the lights are dimmed in that particular room to a certain brightness. It turns on the TV. It turns off other lights in the area, and then just gets me all set up so I can just be chilling on the couch and have perfect lighting every time without even moving off. And I can tell Siri to do this, and I don't even need to pick up my phone.
How is a scene different from an automation?
A scene doesn't have a specific starting event planned in it. So whereas an automation takes something to initiate it, like a time or a sensor occurrence, a scene is more something you could run at any time.
But
Now,
like for the TV, if I turn the TV on, an automation could just kick off the equivalent of watch TV, right?
yep, you could set that up. Yep.
And actually, Justin, I'm think we only briefly touched upon it, but someone did ask, like, what does voice automation or being able to use voice control for these types of devices, what does that look like? And is there something that would be preferred for voice type of commands?
Yeah, good question. So like I mentioned, you have the three options. If you already have an Apple or an Android device, you already have a built-in voice assistant. Apple's is Siri, and Google is the Google Assistant. And whether you've used that or not, it's on your phone. So that's just built in. And you can, once you add a device to say your Google Home, um, at that point, you now could control anything that you put in there, by saying, "Hey Google." Um, and then the other thing, so that's the simplest. Everybody, or I should say, most people have a smartphone these days. That's the simplest way to get voice control. All of these manufacturers, Apple, Google, and Alexa, all make their own voice assistant hubs. Um, and usually they're just small little speakers that you can plug in anywhere, and they will just always be listening for you to call their name. So um, you can shout from one side of the room, Alexa, turn on the lights, and it will do so. The other cool thing, as you uh, get excited and want to have more voice control, if you position a device in a room, for instance, you can see I have, in Apple's case, their smart assistant is a HomePod. I have a HomePod in every room. Each HomePod knows where it lives. So if I walk into that room and I say, turn on the lights, it's going to turn on all the lights in that room only. So it just intelligently knows that. So that's kind of the advantage of having these smart assistant devices in every room, or not every room. I mean, you don't need to put them in every room, but to have them, in your room so you don't need to rely on your phone all the time.
Excellent. And I see that we're close to the end of the hour. So I'm going to close off with this question that someone had submitted in advance. What smart devices or considerations do you have for caregivers? For example, if they don't necessarily live with their loved one with FSHD, or it's a parent growing older, are there any recommendations about what they can do to kind of help their loved one, or at least keep an eye on them? And I know you've showed, some of the like the cameras and those things, but are there security restrictions that they have to know about, or multiple users, like what that would look like?
Good question. Yeah, so cameras would probably be the easiest way to keep an eye on things. And the nice thing about all of these is you can share access out to anybody in your family. Um, so if they were to set up something in their house, say on Apple, you could invite yourself to that, or vice versa, so that you could keep track of it. Trying to think of other things that, as far as like helping an assistant, um, maybe
You could
another nice thing would be like a
you could have
smart.
sensors, right? The motion detectors could help detect whether the person is active or not in the
Mm,
house.
yep, that would be
Yeah,
one.
the cameras tying that in. You have door sensors, what doors are opening or closing. Again, uh, it's a matter of imagination as to what you can or can't do. And
Yep.
but the cameras are definitely good, and then you could share those out, and they could just look in on the house if needed.
Yeah. And I will say they're generally very secure. I don't, if you, as long as you're getting it from a reputable
Yeah,
company, I don't think that you have any reason to worry about it.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Don and Justin. This has been absolutely wonderful. There are a few questions that we didn't get to, but Justin and Don, if it's okay, I will go ahead and send you some of those questions. I think it would be great. And yeah, and someone did ask if we would have access to the slides.
Oh yeah,
Justin.
I'll send those to you, Ashley, and you
Perfect.
can post them wherever it's appropriate. But yeah,
Beautiful. Well,
just want to reiterate, yeah, Don and I are happy to help. I know it can probably be a little bit daunting. There's a lot of things to think about. Certainly happy to field any other questions as people come up with them, or even once they start getting into the smart home setup.
absolutely.
wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it, and we will see you at our next FSHD University. Justin, Don, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we look forward to continuing this discussion, as I'm sure that there will be more questions as people see the recordings, and we'll try to get a blog post up as well so that people can see the slides, and we can address more of this technology. So thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Good
night.
night, everyone.